How bad is it out there?
I think it's as bad as it's ever been, the war on, especially here in Colorado, the war on rural Colorado. And you can tell by this governor's former appointments to boards and commissions. But the fact of the matter is, agriculture continues to find ways to do their job better and better each and every year, to produce more with less, to feed more people. It's challenging, there's no question, but we utilize technology now more than anything ever before.
I know the answer to this. Yeah, I know what you're going to say, but has Trump been good for farmers? And you're going to say, yeah. In what way? What has he done for Colorado's farmers?
Let's just look at the comparison. We'll start with the comparison. Price of corn in October before he started or before he took office was within 10 cents of the price of corn in October this last year. It was the same with soybeans. The prices haven't changed much. What Trump has done is tried to do what he can to level the playing field when it comes to trading products, our exports. 80% of the wheat grown in Colorado is exported. He understands that, and he understands that we were taken advantage of.
How were we taken advantage of?
We were taken advantage of because other countries will put trade barriers on our products, and we didn't do the same for their products coming in here. Europe's a great example. They didn't put a tariff on our products there. They just said, we won't take anything that's grown with GMO. And so all of a sudden you have a trade barrier that limits our market.
Well, our old friend Jerry Sonnenburg actually got a big boy job after leaving the legislature. He is now with the FDA. He's the state executive director for the USDA. So first, Jerry, do you miss the Colorado State Legislature?
I am so glad that I'm not at the Capitol right now, John. It is an ugly place, and the divisiveness down there is just appalling. So I am thrilled to death.
How many years did you serve?
I served
altogether?
16 years. I served 8 years in the House and 8 in the Senate, yes.
So you were there to see the real turning from,
yes.
I'll put it from principled debates, people really debating, but having a beer afterwards, to the fist fights and the ridiculousness and the polarization that we see now. You kind of saw the whole thing happen.
I did. I actually served in the majority 6 of those 16 years. So I was there when there was oftentimes discussions across the aisle and tried to solve problems before the deterioration. And the last 4 years I served in the Senate is when that really got
If you were to boil
challenging.
down what made the difference, I mean, what changed either in Colorado or in the legislature or whatever that turned it from, the legislature of old, where you have these big policy fights, to now where you have personality and purity tests?
The buck starts at the top. I think from my perspective, things started to go really south when we elected a governor that was on a mission and didn't surround himself with people that actually could advise him, but surrounded himself with a cabinet that were yes people.
I'm assuming we were talking about our current governor, Polis.
You assumed correctly.
Assumed correctly. All right, but now you went off and you got a real job. But so from bashing the bureaucrats to feeding at the trough of bureaucracy, if I got this right, you're the USDA's state director, is that the right term?
I'm the executive director of the Farm Service Agency in Colorado, yes. I serve at the pleasure of the president and secretary. I was appointed, it's a political position that was appointed to oversee all of the Farm Service Agency programs here in Colorado. And it's fantastic, quite honestly, John. Yes, I fought bureaucrats for years and years and years.
I have a feeling that
now
your employees come in and go, hey, we pulled out this old quote you said about federal government.
And the truth is, this administration is still on the same page as I am on there. They want to reduce government's role in people's lives and want to get out of the way of agriculture. They've put American farmers and ranchers first.
I think it's probably most important that people get, you're a farmer. You were a farmer when you were in the legislature. The reason we have the legislative session that we do in the winter is because it allowed farmers to come during the slow season and represent their areas. Colorado will always be a farming and ranching area, and get back in time for planting season and harvesting season. So you still farm?
Not as much. The kids are real happy that I have a job in Denver because I can't drive by and say, hey, how come that fence isn't fixed yet or anything like that anymore.
Do you still own the farm?
But I still own the farm. I'm still partners with my boys and my wife and their families.
What do you raise there?
We have a cow-calf operation. We run yearlings, and then we raise corn, wheat, millet, sorghum, and hay. And so it's a diversified farm that the boys continue to run while I get to do what I love to do.
The old man's gone.
Yeah, the old man's gone.
You grew up doing that, right?
I did. I'm actually the fourth generation. My children are the fifth generation on that centennial farm. It's been in the family over 100 years. I actually still live in the same house that both my father and I were raised in, and I raised my children there as well and continue to live there. I just have too much junk to move otherwise.
You're a farmer. You've got the room for the cars all over the place. How has it changed? I mean, we are so removed from farming, and I'm glad. There was a time, 98% of all Americans were farmers, and now 2% of Americans are farmers, and they're feeding everyone else. But we are absolutely disconnected. I would say under this state legislature, and you've seen it, some call it the urban-rural divide. I'll call it the war on rural Colorado. It just doesn't get where our food comes from, where our meat comes from, where our minerals come from, and it's really easy with a suburban sensitivity to tell farmers what to do. How bad is it out there?
I think it's as bad as it's ever been, the war on, especially here in Colorado, the war on rural Colorado. And you can tell by this governor's former appointments to boards and commissions. But the fact of the matter is, agriculture continues to find ways to do their job better and better each and every year, to produce more with less, to feed more people. It's challenging, there's no question, but we utilize technology now more than anything ever before. It's much different. I still play with my draft horses, but farming with draft horses, where we are now, my grandfather would have never, ever thought
What's
about
a draft horse?
A draft horse, a Percheron or Clydesdale, a big horse that they used to use to pull plows.
Really?
Yeah, and farm. Yeah, that's my hobby. My father told me that I was born 100 years too late because
that's how they farm.
Yeah. If I had to do it, I probably would hate it.
Yeah.
But I enjoy my draft horses.
All right, so I know the answer to this. Yeah, I know what you're going to say, but has Trump been good for farmers? And you're going to say, yeah. In what way? What has he done for Colorado's farmers?
Let's just look at the comparison. We'll start with the comparison. Price of corn in October before he started or before he took office was within 10 cents of the price of corn in October this last year. It was the same with soybeans. The prices haven't changed much. What Trump has done is tried to do what he can to level the playing field when it comes to trading products, our exports. 80% of the wheat grown in Colorado is exported. He understands that, and he understands that we were taken advantage of.
How were we taken advantage of?
We were taken advantage of because Other countries will put trade barriers on our products, and we didn't do the same for their products coming in here. Europe's a great example. They didn't put a tariff on our products there. They just said we won't take anything that's grown with GMO. And so all of a sudden you have a trade barrier that limits our market. No matter what the science shows about GMOs or those type of products.
Genetically modified
yes,
organisms.
Yes, that actually make us better farmers. Those genetically modified traits, for example, in corn that allow us to use Roundup, actually leaves product or cover on the ground. I don't know if you know this, but between 2000 and 2010, it was actually hotter and drier in Colorado than it was during the dirty 30s. But did we have the Dust Bowl days that we did in the 30s? No, that's because agriculture has used that technology, has used those traits to be able to better manage the land that they take care of.
For those who don't study the history of it, during the 30s when our fields were over-farmed and just basically strip-mined would be probably the way to put it, there was no ground cover. It was all just dirt. And so when the winds would come, it became the Dust Bowl. And so having cover on your fields, making sure that there is still plant life there when you're not in the growing season is crucial, right?
Oh, absolutely. And you're right. Those draft horses that I talk about, they plowed and turned the soil over, and the only thing bare was dirt. And so, yes, water would come and wash it away, wind would come and wash it, I mean, that's what they knew then.
So let's talk about the tariffs for a second. How are the tariffs helping farmers? It seemed like, there's all this trade war. Now Canada's not going to buy our, let's just say wheat. I don't know if that's the case or not. And so all of a sudden, all these farmers, all whom voted for Trump, he did so well in the rural areas, are going, wait a second, now these countries aren't going to buy my products because there's a trade war going on. China's not going to buy my stuff when before they did. I have a hard time seeing how tariffs are helping Colorado's farmers.
Well, and obviously this is way above my pay grade, but I can tell you Mexico now is buying more this year than they've ever bought from us before. So without going into details, and I don't have those numbers in front of me, I can tell you that the Trump administration understands that farmers and ranchers are key to national security, and he wants to do everything he can to protect them. And if that means working with other nations, utilizing tariffs as a tool, then I'm fully behind him doing that. He understands. He remembers, just like me. I'm old enough. You're not as old as I am. A world war when Europe ran out of food. They became enslaved to those that would provide food. We can never get in that spot, and our administration understands that.
Let's talk a little bit about immigration. ICE raids are the big story. Most immigrants are working in service industries. Farming and agriculture have to be the top one. I mean, you go to California, you talk to people. I've talked to people who have wineries, and they said, without immigrants, there is no wine. We're simply not going to be able to get it. I can't imagine this enforcement of immigration and mass deportations isn't really hurting farmers. It's got to be hurting farmers.
And I don't have an answer to that either. That also the immigration side is outside of my FSA. What I will tell you is that the president and the current administration is doing things to make it easier to get legal workers here for agriculture, streamlining the process for those workers.
Do you think most farmers in Colorado who voted for Trump would vote for him again if they had to do it over?
Absolutely.
You're one of them, so
absolutely.
And why is that? Give me a couple things that he's done that has made your life as a farmer better.
For one thing, we can look at the death tax. When you have a lot of property and a lot of debt. When you pass that to your children to continue to farm, that is a significant impact to us. His wanting to deregulate.
Actually, let's stop there because so many people don't quite get that one.
Okay.
And the death tax is just so ridiculous. So you spend your life creating wealth, and it's your wealth. You should be able to do with it whatever you want. But you die, and the government's going to take a huge proportion of it. One time, like 70% of it.
Farmers have had to sell.
Right.
Families have had to sell parts of the farm just to pay the tax so they could continue their parents' legacy.
And so farmers are in this bizarre position that they are property wealthy and cash broke. So they've got all this land, and all this land is worth a fortune. And dad dies and leaves the family farm to Junior, and Junior's like, oh, great. And in order to pay the death taxes, he has to sell, half the land. And then when that guy grows up and dies, whatever's left, he might leave to his kid. And then it's going to get cut in half again and cut in half again. And before you know, you squeeze out the family farm. This is a real issue. What did the tax bill do to that?
I don't have the details. I don't know. I know he is
the
limit.
Right. He changed the limit of
right.
the death tax.
Yes. And again, that's outside FSA, but I know that has been helpful. The deregulation, the stuff he's working on, waters of the U.S., where the environmental community had tried to take that away from agriculture and make those limitations. Those are things he's working on. But the broader picture, just his economic mind, to make us better economically and stronger, is key to the way we live. I mean, gas prices now, compared to where they were a year ago or 2 years ago under the previous administration, that's a huge impact. I spend about $100,000 a year on diesel fuel.
Yeah, I know. I've seen the Rolls Royce you drive around town.
Yeah,
it's really
my
awful.
1995 or 2015 Chevy pickup. Yeah.
Let me ask you about the waterways of the U.S. issue, the pipeline that was unfunded. It seems as though Trump wants to punish Colorado, and Lauren Boebert stood up and said, "No, this affects my district. We need this." And it was an interesting fight from a die-hard Trump supporter, Lauren Boebert, who's saying, "You're punishing us," and oddly, Trump was really hurting the very people who voted for him in that district. They're the ones who needed that waterway. And I know that's so completely outside of the Farm Service Agency that you're on and the USDA and Department of Ag, but it sure seems like those are things that also have got to hurt her constituents and your farmers.
I'm not sure. I don't know if you read his veto letter.
I did not.
But it had very valid points. I mean, this has been going on since the 60s, trying to do this and the wastefulness and those type of things. So I understand that argument. And when it comes to government waste, how he wants to make sure that if you're going to do something, you do it right. And the fear of continuing down a path where it's still not going to get done and we squander money. I
mean, I get that, but it was Trump 1 who signed the bill to make it happen, and when did a photo op with Cory Gardner, and then it's Trump 2 who said, no, we're yanking that one out and vetoing it.
And obviously, again, way above my pay grade and outside of my purview. But I do, one of the things from rural Colorado and the producers that I have is they trust Trump's mind to be able to make decisions that are better for them in the long term, whether it's economically or what that may be. And so
we're going through some of the things that the administration has done that has helped you. You mentioned the death tax. I stopped you there. There were other things that he's done.
Well, and we talked a little bit about waters of the U.S., the Environmental Protection Agency, getting out of the way so ag producers can do what they do best, and that's feed the world.
Talk to me a little bit about that as a farmer before you talk from your new bureaucratic, cushy job with the Rolls Royce. As a farmer, what kind of trouble did the EPA cause you? I mean, because we love the EPA, we want to preserve our environment, and they want to make sure there's the waters are clean and the air is good. These are important things. What kind of issues would a farmer have with the EPA?
Well, I think there's a difference between the EPA and protecting our environment. The EPA has not always been a friend of the environment. They have actually made things, in some cases, worse for the environment by changing stream flows, those type of things that disrupt the ecosystem that we have. When it comes to clean air and clean water, we talked about the movement that agriculture has made to be better stewards of the land through technology, through use of pesticides, to be able to protect the land and take care of it. I think the EPA in a previous administration was trying to limit many of those. I know they were trying to limit the use of many of those pesticides that are key to agriculture production. All that's going to do is make it more expensive for you to go buy your food.
And Colorado has some of the highest food inflation costs of the country. Colorado is consistently higher in inflation than the rest of the nation. And it's no wonder with our minimum wage laws, with the energy prices going up, with Family Leave Act, all the other burdens that are being put on, the kind of don't build, don't do it, and the fight with rural Colorado, it's no wonder. And people are going to the store and it still hurts. Buying meat hurts. Even buying basics hurt. Buying fruit and vegetables. I mean, I buy these things. I notice the price going up. And it's no wonder people choose poorer quality foods, a lot of starchy foods, because it's cheaper than buying the right vegetables and the right meats and the things you need for good nutrition.
Well, and I would challenge that just a little bit because you mentioned meat. There has been some push that beef is too expensive. But if you calculate how much you're actually spending on that protein, that good protein, compared to what a pound of potato chips or a pound of any of that other stuff, when it comes right down to it, beef, pork, chicken are great values.
A few years ago, those prices went skyrocketing. We had 9% inflation, and I can tell you the shrinkflation at my grocery store was noticeable. It is changing.
And
it's slowing up.
We also lost ag producers back then as well because they couldn't survive at those current markets. The volatility in the markets with beef prices, stagnant over a number of years, yet the expenses going up. Same with our wheat and corn. You look at the wheat price compared to what it was when I started farming on my own in 1979, and it sure hasn't caught up with inflation. I mean, wheat back then was $3 a bushel. Now it's $4. But I'm producing more with technology and science, and that's what ag producers do, is they figure out ways to meet that demand. You put the demand in front of them, and they're going to meet the demand. And oftentimes what we do as producers, you give us a demand, we will overproduce, and then we have that price go back down because that's supply and demand.
What's the biggest challenge for Colorado farmers and ranchers? You've been there, and might be federal, might be state, it might just be the markets.
It's a whole slew of things, and it comes to stability. Can I plan ahead 5 years with a business plan so that I can be successful? And the volatility in prices for fertilizer, in the prices for inputs, and then my commodity
fuel
prices, I can't plan on those for a 5-year run, with especially the last several years where it's been, the last 4 years especially, 5 years, and with instability in those costs.
Most of that from the federal government, or is most of that from the state government?
I would say it's a combination of both.
If you could change one or two things to make farming a whole lot better, a whole lot easier, what would it do? If you could wave the magic wand, because you've been a farmer, but you've also been in that mill called the legislature. But if you could have one bill, either on the federal or state level, put it down and go, this one thing, this is going to help the most. What would that one thing be?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. If I'd have known that, I would have ran it when I was in the legislature. But I think the key here is the less roadblocks we put in front of agriculture, the better off we're going to be, the less expensive your food's going to be, and the better off everybody will be.
Talk to me a little bit about corporate farming. That, for a long time the narrative was, these huge corporate farms are coming. They're gobbling up family farms, and with the death tax, they've got to sell. And so some huge company comes in, I forget some of the names, and then they just put in their computers and their big combines, and they just kind of turn the place into a factory, and we lose the diversity of different family farms specializing in different things, or rotating their crops differently, or trying different strains or different fertilizers. How much of farming is corporate versus family? And I know families also have corporations, but you know what I mean.
And that's the challenge. And I think the last number I saw is still 98% of the farms in the United States are still family farms, whether they have a corporate structure, a limited liability structure, whatever that is. Giant corporations, I don't know where they're at and what they're doing. Oftentimes they will buy land and then have somebody lease it to somebody else. But I don't know. I haven't met those people in Colorado. I haven't had them talk to me when I was in the legislature. Most everybody I work with are family farmers.
There was a bill in the legislature just recently I read about, and they want better labeling for local products. Oh, counterfeit products, that was it. That you say that these are, Palisade peaches, and they're not actually from Palisade, or it's what's it, Rocky Ford cantaloupes, melons, and they say no, it's not, and so we need another layer of government in there to certify no, these are actually there. How much does that matter to a farmer?
That's a good question. And again, that's outside of my purview at FSA. I haven't paid that much attention to, but I know correct labeling within the beef industry was a challenge when the Beyond Meats came out, and they called them Beyond Meats, when in fact it was
Beyond
done
plants.
in a petri dish. Yeah.
Right.
So labeling is important. There's a faction throughout the livestock industry that's split on labeling, country of origin labeling, and those type of things. So labeling is important for the consumer. And I'm one of those that believe that if I raise a superior product, I want to label that with my label. And so should government mandate labels? No, but should someone else be able to say, I'm selling you Sonnenburg beef when they're not? That's not right either.
How many cattle do you have? Just out of curiosity.
We run about 250 mama cows and then run about 200 to 250 yearlings.
When there is a shortage of meat, and it's like, oh my God, meat prices are going crazy. I know with eggs, it's a matter of weeks, maybe months before you can breed a whole bunch more chickens, and all of a sudden, you got eggs again. That's a pretty fast turnaround. Cattle is a whole different beast. So let's say meat prices double. how long does it take, somebody like you to take advantage of that and go, oh my God, we're doubling down, buy more cattle?
About the soonest you can make that happen is 16 to 18 months. If I drop a calf now,
Right.
so if I take my cows and drop a calf now, we're 16 to 18 months before it gets to your plate. So if I want to meet that market and I don't have the cows in place to buy those cows yet, and breed them and then move them forward, it takes time. And that's part of the issue with the livestock industry. We aren't saving enough females to build the herd back up. Our numbers are down, and so there is indeed a demand for our product.
I don't know if you're allowed to comment on, given your new position, but the first gentleman here is rabidly anti-meat. I mean, he's a rabid vegan, and that's popped out in a lot of policies. Not only Meat Out Day, which what a disaster that was for his cause. I don't think the governor did more to sell beef than having a Meat Out Day. But even things like on the veterinarian board, and the veterinarian board keeps an eye on mostly agriculture and cattle and livestock, to put in animal rights activists and vegans onto that board who have avowed that they want to make eating meat illegal. It just gives me a sense of how vicious this anti-cattleman, anti-livestock movement is from a lot of city elites.
You're right, and just like any extreme group, there's a minority or a very small minority that has a loud voice. I'm just so proud that our ranchers continue to do what they do and ignore all of that extra noise.
It's hard to ignore when the regulating bodies are being targeted against what they're regulating. Same thing with the oil and gas industry, where you put anti-oil and gas activists onto the oil conservation board, and therefore there's no more drilling permits. It's not, and so I think Coloradan farms and ranches have a real threat. And I don't think it's from the federal government during this administration. I think it's from state and local governments.
And we've seen what this current national administration, President Trump and Secretary Rollins, have made it very clear that they want to be helpful to agriculture. That's a different message that rural Colorado has gotten from the state administration.
Talk to me about Brooke Rollins. As you know, she's a friend of mine. She ran a think tank in Dallas. What's different about her as Secretary of Agriculture?
I don't know if there's anything different about her other than she is sharp as a tack. She understands agriculture, understands conservative policy, wants to be helpful to the farmers and ranchers, and has surrounded herself with people that can make that happen.
She was Miss Texas once.
It doesn't surprise me, by golly. She is a very wonderfully looking young lady.
She is, and she's just a remarkably great leader. I've seen it in the many roles that she's done. She's just a sharp lady. Anything else we need to know about agriculture in Colorado? What have we missed?
Here's what I'll tell you from my position as the executive director. I'm actually very proud to work for this administration to carry out their mission to make farmers and ranchers a priority and make them a priority in America and the products they produce. It's an honor to do this, even though I'm a bureaucrat now. It truly is an honor to serve under this administration and advocate for agriculture.
Well, I can tell that you've always been a real advocate for your constituents, farmers, ranchers, and it's the community you come from. So I think they're probably very well served. Jerry, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
John, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
And you, think freedom. Did you enjoy that conversation? Well, check out one of these. We have the most interesting conversations with Colorado's most fascinating people. Be sure not to miss a single one. Like, subscribe, hit that little bell icon. And if you can't watch, listen. Check out the Devil's Advocate podcast on your favorite listening app. And by all means, think freedom.